Well, let's break down now the results with our political panel. Joining us are former Illinois Congresswoman Cheri Bustos and President and Executive Editor of the Daily Signal, Robert Bluey. Robert, good to have you in studio with us. Cheri via Zoom. Okay, as a Democrat, what do you think Vice President Harris's biggest campaign missteps were? We just heard from Lindsay and her take. What are yours?
I think Lindsay, her take is accurate. Look, I live in the middle of the country. I was a 5-term Democrat member of the U.S. House of Representatives from a Trump district. And so it's different in these parts. And I think if we continue to have coastal people making decisions on how national campaigns have to be run, we're in trouble. And as Democrats, and look, I think now I agree with Kamala Harris, and now it's time to turn the page politically for Democrats and figure this thing out. I think we ought to get a commission together or a high-powered committee together and figure out what went wrong, why did this end up being really a blowout, and figure out next steps. In my opinion, we've got to focus on opportunity. The kind of the BS-y things that are out there that Democrats have a tendency to spend way too much time on, we got to put that behind us. And then just one last point for the question that you just asked. At the top of the hour, you had Dr. Phil talking about bringing the country together. Again, as a Democrat in a Trump congressional district, I said the day after he won in 2016, I said, look, I don't agree with Donald Trump on a lot, and when I need to push back, I will. But where I can work with him, I will work with him. And I think Democrats need to say that, and they need to say it in unity and figure out how we're going to work together as opposed to having this last session of Congress that was ruled to be one of the least productive sessions of Congress in the history of our nation. We've got to move past that.
Yeah, Cheri, you make up a good point. You know, even Donald Trump echoing that in his speech last night, emphasizing unity, bringing the country together. And Robert, you know, it's really interesting because, you know, we talked to insiders on both sides of this campaign, and people are going to be waking up this morning looking at the map and saying the polls were wrong again. Basically. So what happened? Was this race really ever neck and neck?
Well, you can go back to July and August, and you can see the surge that Kamala Harris had when she was first introduced as the replacement for Joe Biden. So I think in some sense, yes, the polls indicated that she did have strong support. What you saw happen, though, as she did more media interviews, as people started to examine her policy positions or lack thereof, remember, it took her a long time to articulate what her agenda would be. Those things probably were shifting in the late stages. And let's also look at some of those constituencies that Donald Trump made significant gains with. Black Americans, Hispanic Americans. I don't know that the pollsters maybe were doing quite the right sample as the closing days of this campaign came to an end.
Yeah. Interesting, you know, when people look at strategy, I mean, we've heard over and over people say that the Trump strategy at McDonald's was one of the things that made him so incredibly relatable. And the Harris team, you know, they were bringing in and talking to a lot of celebrity endorsement, which is very unusual because the Republican Party has always been typically known as the elitist party, the Democrat Party more for the middle class. And maybe people were seeing a bit of a flip of the script here. Talk about that.
Absolutely. I'd also point to the moment where Trump donned the reflective vest and sat in the garbage truck, right? I mean, he was really leaning in. And this is one of the things that's so masterful about Donald Trump and just his ability to seize a moment and the attention that the American people will obviously focus on things that maybe aren't into the policy minutia. But you make a great point. There has been a political realignment in this country. The Republican Party is now the more diverse working class party for the American people. I think you're going to see that reflected in the policies that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance pursue when they are in the White House. And it's going to have significant ramifications for years to come. And that is, I think, probably a good thing for our country. I hope that the Democrats take a lesson from this and see that they have abandoned some of those core principles and those values that the American people really want them to focus on.
And Cheri, if you're still with us and listening, I want to give you a chance to comment on that as well.
The grand old party of the past is gone. This is now Donald Trump's party, and I think we've seen that coming for a number of years. And I think the Democratic Party has a reckoning and needs to make some changes. This is This is about, again, focusing on opportunity. And the fact that Democrats as a party have lost so many in the working class is because we've had people at the top of the party say things like, we'll just run up the score in the suburbs and we can forget about rural America. I live in a town of 3,500 people. I come from a long line of family farmers. I am surrounded by Republicans, and I do not see them as the enemy. I do not see them as trash. I see them as my neighbors, and I want to figure out as a party how we're going to work together, bring the country together, and really head in a new direction for our party.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all neighbors.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I can say our viewers are really most likely appreciating this very intelligent conversation that's being had. So, Cheri and Robert, thank you both so very much for being a part of this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
And still to come, right here on Merit TV, the United States' role in international politics under a second Trump administration. We're going to dive into that. You are watching our special coverage right here on Merit TV. We'll be right back.